And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here, out to the RNC's, Cassie Smedley. Cassie, good to have you with us.
Hey, Kevin, always great to be with you.
Well, certainly there's talks of government shutdowns. There's talks of Michael Cohen. There's talks of everything except about how great the economy is under President Trump.
Oh, that would just be too easy, right? But that's right. We had a great economic report last Friday, 4.1%, and we put a compilation together of all of these Democrats, including Barack Obama, saying, what is he, taking his magic beans, that this was just a 3% growth was an unrealistic prediction. Here we are at 4.1. And I think the reason, well, we can guess why no one wants to talk about it in the mainstream media, but I was thinking a lot about why Democrats are so up in arms about Donald Trump's success. And it's because it completely blows up their theory that you need more government in your lives. Here, Donald Trump has said, I'm going to give you a tax cut so you can keep more of your money. I'm going to deregulate so you can get rid of the regulations that are hamstringing you from growing your business. And look what's happened. We are hiring. You've got enthusiasm up. He was in the Midwest last week celebrating the return of hundreds of jobs to cities that just 2 years ago people thought were never going to come back. And that's all because Donald Trump and the Republican agenda have empowered the American people to say, you want a great American comeback? I'm going to give you the tools to go do it. And we're doing it.
And it is amazing when you think of the president last week with the steel workers bringing back real American jobs that we haven't seen since, I don't know, the 70s.
You got it. And what a change in scene, right? Steelworkers, unions, those are groups that at least in my lifetime have been synonymous with Democrats. And they get it. They're saying, no, the Democrat Party is not representative of us. We've been with them for far too long. And for far too long, we've been getting the short end of the stick. And now here President Trump is saying, give me a chance. And look, I've got a job again. I'm with them. It was an interesting scene to see these folks that, again, you don't normally associate with Republicans, but you can sure associate them with Donald Trump.
Well, and it goes back to the talk of the Reagan Democrats returning to the Republican Party being Trump Democrats now. And the working people, despite what the press says, they love the president.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And again, the proof is in the pudding. You're going to love anybody who's going to empower you with the tools to get your life going again. And you go back to this GDP growth. Under Barack Obama, we had 1.8% growth in a good quarter. 2% was a high watermark for him. And it felt like, well, this is just our new normal. I guess this is as good as it's going to get. The glory days of our country may be behind us. And now President Trump is saying, wait a minute, I have way more faith in you than that. We've just been placing the power in the wrong places, Washington and government. Let's get it back out to you. And I think that's why we're seeing what we've seen. I know that's why we're seeing what we've seen. And to that end, of course, with less than 100 days to the midterm election, if you want to see this great American comeback continue, you got to make sure you've got majorities in Congress, Republican majorities in Congress, who will continue to support the president's agenda, because this doesn't happen if you get a bunch of Ocasio-Cortez all over Congress. This ends. All this good news goes away if you let the socialists in.
Cassie Smedley joining us from the RNC, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get to the midterms. We're, 99 days away. All the Sunday shows, we're 100 days. It's like the kickoff to football season for them, and I totally get it. But what do you make of things? And I guess for us, the race that we're watching is that race in Montana.
Right. A good one to watch. We feel really good about that race, by the way. I have a great team out there. And for our part of the RNC, we've made 25 million voter contacts. That's just knocking on doors and making phone calls. We've made hundreds of million voter contacts when you add in emails and text messages and mail pieces and all the stuff you're all probably getting inundated with. But we've got our infrastructure on the ground. We've got our National Week of Action going right now, where we've got more than 4,000 volunteers in 27 states out making those same door knocks and letting people know really what's at stake, or rather reminding people how good we've had it and why this good news keeps happening. That's not coincidental. That's because you got the right people in the right place right now, and we need to keep that going. But we feel really good about where we are, and so long as Democrats continue to take these absurd extreme viewpoints like abolish ICE and open borders for all, we feel really good about where the American people are going to cast their ballot come November.
Yes, you bring up a rather scary point on what's really happening to the Democratic Party when they're talking. One candidate makes a statement, then all of a sudden it's who can out-liberal everybody, and then it becomes a mainstream part of their platform. I mean, abolishing ICE is crazy, and yet you have mainstream Democrats touting this as a policy they'd look into.
You are not overstating it at all, which is really crazy as well. That, yes, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says this when she wins her primary in New York. And then last week, she and Bernie Sanders show up at a rally for a Democrat in Kansas. Now, I'm from Kansas City. I know how red Kansas is. And if you're a Democrat trying to get elected in Kansas, you shouldn't be running around with the socialists. You should be running around with Donald Trump. And yet, he thinks that he can't get the support he needs from his party without showing up with Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez. It's really something to behold. And as you've seen the domino effect from crazy extreme leftist Democrats to folks that you really used to think were more pragmatic and moderate, all lining up with this abolish ICE talking point. It's really crazy to think that that's where the mainstream Democrat Party is today. And I know that there are folks in Nebraska. I was just talking with some folks out there. It's all over the country that the Democrat Party feels like they have to fall in line with this talking point, this position.
It will be a challenge for those Southern and Western Democrats and those that are still elected in the Midwest. You know, Time Magazine has the Cover the South issue, and they've got the Democratic candidate for governor on there. Can such and such turn Georgia blue? What do you make of what's going on in Georgia?
Well, I think Georgia's interesting because remember Georgia 6 last spring, if that's right, and all the millions of dollars that came in for that special election with John Ossoff and Karen Handel. And it was Hollywood was involved, and they were making commercials, and I mean, they rolled out all the stops. And yet, Karen Handel won the seat handily. Now, we like to attribute a lot of that to having the right data and targeting the right voters. But at the end of the day, it's a game of math. And what you've got going down in Georgia in particular is you still have far more registered Republicans than Democrats. They have a far higher propensity to vote, in particular in a midterm. And by the way, you've got something good to run on. Georgia's had a very successful Republican governor, Governor Deal. And now you have the Trump Great American Comeback, which they're feeling the effects of course, with tax cuts and deregulation and with our farming community. So I don't see where the game plan is for Democrats down there because the math just doesn't add up, the math and the mission.
Well, and you go back to the radical Democrats, there really isn't a Bill Clinton. It seems as if the Bill Clinton wing of the party has been eviscerated.
That's right. Those Southern Democrats that we used to think were synonymous, especially in states like Georgia, where you say, well, yeah, you can have a Democrat, but really they're pretty pragmatic on a lot of our issues. So they're a likable person and we're okay with that. You don't see those. You're exactly right. That's a thing of the past. And that's something that they just don't get. It's this continued insistence of the national party calling the shots in all of these different corners and neighborhoods of the country. There's a real difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. Again, we don't get involved in primaries. They do. When we pick your candidate, we go in with the full force of our data operation, but not the full force of our platform operation. We say, if you're who the voters want, then we'll support you. And I think that's a real difference is that you've got the Democrat Party at the national level having this issue right now, not just of governorship, but certainly congressional candidates. Will you support Nancy Pelosi? And they're all tripping up on it because none of them want to support her, but they want her money because that's where the Democrat Party gets their money. It comes to the national level. So they're all sorts of mixed up right now.
And that's good news. Cassie, finally, what do you make of California with Senator Feinstein and others being apparently out of the progressive loop?
Isn't that interesting? We've talked about this before, I think. And with Senator Feinstein, that's really something. She's, of course, been in the Senate longer than I've been alive. And And she's got the math behind her. She won her primary handily, and yet her party still went and supported the progressive candidate. Again, just another example of, in today's Democrat Party, it's like they're almost too afraid to support someone they've been standing by for a long time, or who has dared to work with Republicans, which Senator Feinstein certainly has on the national security front. But that's just a show that I'm excited to watch. I think that they continue to fight with each other as opposed to fighting for their constituents, and I think that spells bad news for them in November. Now, I don't think we're going to get a Republican senator in California. I don't think we're there, but I do think that it shows real opportunity for us in the long run if we capitalize on it, which we've got the infrastructure in place to do that.
It's amazing, after 8 years of Barack Obama, what the president and the revived RNC has been doing in the past couple.
Yes, well, we're certainly excited about it, and we really are. Here's the difference. After 2016, and it really started before this, but truly 2016, we looked at it and we said, what did President Trump just do here? How did he engage with these voters? How did he talk to them? And we looked at it and we said, okay, we can do that. We've got the infrastructure. We're going to keep building on that with our teams in more states than ever before. But we really looked at what worked. And the Democrats are still trying to figure out what happened, as opposed to saying what works for President Trump and how can we co-opt that with our own message. They're not willing to do that. And I think that's why they are really wasting their opportunity to potentially pick up some majorities. I just don't think it's going to happen because they haven't done enough soul searching. And the searching they have done has led them to far left socialist views.
And it's amazing. And that's their mainstream look at it right now. Finally, what do you make of this possible government shutdown? We seem to hear this all the time. We don't take it seriously. It seems people don't take it seriously in the real world until the government is actually shut down.
That's right. And you see everybody saying, we don't think we're going to get to this point. We don't think we're going to get to this point. But President Trump just tweeted again that he wants real immigration reform. And if you remember the last shutdown in January, it was the same markers on the line. I want these 4 pillars of immigration reform. And Democrats said, basically, AKA, we want open borders, but they shut down the government in favor of illegal immigrants instead of fighting for American citizens. And I think what you're seeing here is President Trump taking advantage of this, seeing what he's seeing now with all the abolished ICE, to say, let's put them on the line against this. I don't think anybody wants the government shutdown. That's disruptive, but let's at least hold their feet to the fire and make them stand up for American citizens over illegal immigrants. And I think for most of us, that's a reasonable position for them to take, but that seems a bridge too far for Democrats these days.
Cassie, we always appreciate you. Keep up the great work. I know you're very busy today. Thank you for the time, ma'am.
Always great to start my week with you. Thank you.
All right, Cassie Smedley joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up next, it's an issue that we've been talking about. It's nice to see one of the papers picking up on what we've discussed, which is a compliment to you, and that is, how safe do you feel concerning the rapid growth in the Treasure Valley when you have all these new people coming in here? And contrary to popular belief, we're not just reporting new stoplights, we're reporting serious crime. That and more next. Good morning. Thank you for starting your day with us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your day. So, how safe, how secure do you feel? By the way, can we continue to take a look at this picture of the Playboy centerfold that Donald Trump apparently, allegedly, maybe not, had some type of, and maybe did, maybe didn't pay off, but everybody is perceived to be guilty until proven innocent in the court of the popular political Politburo-driven media. I mean, how many times? I mean, she is cosmetically appealing, although the photo looks a little dated, like all of us. Anyway, that having been said, phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Story that happened last week from the Associated Press, and you really have to wonder, there are a lot of good people that work in the prisons, and this is a place that we haven't gone yet. Yes, we've been to the Canyon County Jail a few times. Yes, we've, gone to the schools, looking forward once again, as soon as we get the clearance from the high command here at the broadcast center, to start soliciting schools For our fall campaign, we do so many of those. I can't remember how many schools that we've gone to, but always looking to profile the good of the Treasure Valley and the people that have served, continue to serve. By the way, you'll be hearing this a lot. Tuesday is going to be the hottest day ever, at least for this summer. So if you're working outside, if you're doing anything outside, please be very, very careful. Again, Tuesday is going to be the hottest ever. Maybe it's a good day to take the day off. Certainly hydrate. And those people that work outside, I don't know how you do it, but big ups, big props. Amazing. So back to the story. Back to the prison systems here in the Treasure Valley. And it's very easy to beat up on the prison systems. You can go back to the Fight Club, the Gladiator Club that happened, where you had inmates pitted against inmates. No, it wasn't a movie. It actually did happen here, and no one was charged. And we got rid of the private company running the facilities. Now we've got, what is it? We've got the state running them again, and yet we have too many bad people here in the state of Idaho, so we have to send them to Texas with the Texas con men, and apparently the convicts there don't like people moving into their areas, so we have allegations that the people in Idaho are not treated very well. So this, another embarrassing moment, and by the way, for people that are rank and file, the corrections officers, you do a great job. You do a job that most of us wouldn't do. But what happened last week, 364 inmates hacked the JPay tablets they use for email, music, and games, and collectively transferred nearly $250,000 into their own accounts. I don't know. I didn't think that I didn't know that you could get email in the poke or play games. But apparently an embarrassment of, stupidity for the Department of Corrections when this has happened. $250,000 hacked because we're giving inmates handheld computers. And defensively, they say in this article, the handheld computer tablets are popular in prisons across the country. And apparently CenturyLink and JPay have a contract with the prisons. Am I the only one that will say this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO? Why in the world are we giving people that are doing time access to entertainment? Am I missing something here? Traffic and weather together, 626 at KIDO.
Every Gibbard.
And we go to the phones. Let's go to Steve in Mesa. Steve, good morning. You know all about the prisons at KIDO Talk Radio. What's up?
Oh, not much. I have to give it, the people to blame here are CenturyLink and JPay because their systems aren't secure or weren't secure enough. If you're going to put something like that in the prisons, they need to be secure. Now, as a correctional officer or former correctional officer, 'cause now I'm in the juvenile system, us as officers, we kind of look to those as our lifelines because, they're keeping the inmates entertained and it keeps incidents down. And, that's even at the private prison that still exists here in Idaho because there still is one.
Which one is that?
That's the Idaho CAP facility. It's about a 400-bed facility just south of ISCC. And they've got their own little problems, too, right now. It's ran by MTC, Management and Training Corporation. So,
well, let's get back to this. So you're in favor of the tablets.
I am. And when I went through the Post Academy, I went in there with the mentality when I originally went there, we need to take the TVs, we need to take the video games, we need to take everything from them. But when senior officers and officials were like, this helps give them something to do so they're not learning from other inmates, on how to extort people or, learn other crimes, to become a better criminal. Gives them something to do and to pass the time so they're not just thinking about the next crime that they're going to commit. It makes it safer for the officer on the inside. It's kind of like a second babysitter.
But aren't we rewarding them for being bad?
Some people will look at it that way, and I would say, no, we're not, because when you look at how much they have to pay for those tablets and their TVs and the games, it's highway robbery. I mean, the tablets run about $300 for, a $50 tablet you can pick up at Walmart. I mean,
nothing like markup or a captive market.
Yeah. I mean, if I were going to run a business, commissary business would be the one to get into. I mean, you're talking 1,000%, overhead. I mean, you get a little 13-inch TV, $50 TV, you turn it around, $350, brand new, I mean.
Well, what do you make of who's supervising these guys to have them do this then, Steve?
Well, it would be JPay and CenturyLink. But here's the thing, all the emails, every email is read by the investigator. And, if they're at least glanced over, and if there's something that's pertinent to a case or something that, can expose something or that is crime-related, it gets investigated. I mean, that's how they actually find out that drugs are coming into prison, how they're getting into prison, and where they're coming from. So, in other words, it does help us, too, because it gives us another lifeline to look at, because none of their communications are actually private in prison. Everything's monitored, their phone calls, their emails. So, I mean, it gives us an extra hand to, prevent crime or potential crime or to close cases.
Steve, thank you for your insight and for what you do, brother. I was hoping you'd call in.
You're welcome, and I just want to give a shout-out to all the firefighters that are helping save my house up in Mesa.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you for letting us know about that. Thank you. All right. Big shout-out to the firefighters. More calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
Blessed to be a part of your day. 6:38. Coming up, Liberal Steve, Max, and Randall. First, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio, exclusively on KIDO Talk Radio, live from Capitol Hill. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
So I watched most of the Sunday shows. I must confess that I missed Rudy Giuliani with the folks on Fox News Sunday. What did the president know, and when did he know it?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, he did do an interview with Chris Wallace talking about that meeting in Trump Tower in 2016. Giuliani still holds firm that he doesn't believe the president knew about that meeting. And Michael Cohen, though, saying that he would speak to Robert Mueller and explain what he understood to be the case. I don't believe he has a tape to that effect, but Giuliani also on CBS Face the Nation said there's some 183 tapes, but not obviously all of the president. He said only one of them is the president. I mean, it looks like Michael Cohen was just taping people left and right, and people didn't know about it. But Giuliani says that Michael Cohen, because of what he's done, has blown his credibility, even if he were to work with Robert Mueller. Others would say, well, look, I mean, anybody who flips and turns on someone to work with a prosecutor could be viewed as maybe somebody without having credibility. So that argument may not hold up when it comes down to it. But one thing about it is Michael Cohen saying that President Trump knew about this meeting. It would also cast doubt on Donald Trump Jr.'s testimony to Congress. Now, that's under oath, and that's a whole different thing than just say, someone's lying on TV or on the radio or something like that.
Indeed. Of course, you've got other shows playing when Giuliani praised Michael Cohen. Boy, it's unusual. I mean, you're used to carrying a recording device with you, but Michael Cohen took it to a unique level.
He sure did. It just wouldn't occur to me, I don't think, to do that. Although, I mean, he was working for Donald Trump at that time, and maybe he had a feeling he needed to. We don't know the full story, but it is something that someone could go to the bar and complain about. Maybe what he did wasn't illegal in New York. It's a one-party state, so he wouldn't have done anything illegal necessarily. If he did it in Mar-a-Lago, though, in Florida, which is a two-party state, then he might have broken the law. We don't know that he did that. But at the very least, who'd want to hire Michael Cohen as an attorney right now? You wouldn't trust him.
He really appears to be a person without a constituency.
Right, exactly. I don't know where his fan base is exactly. I suppose now it might be Democrats. I mean, Lanny Davis, he hired him. Lanny Davis goes way back with the Clintons. I think that sends a message in his choice of an attorney at this point.
Well, and again, that I mean, it's not like there's a shortage of attorneys around, Rachel.
No doubt, right? He could have gotten anyone really high profile to represent him. That would have been just, really wanting to represent him just for the publicity. So going for Lanny Davis does send a message, and I think it sends a message that he's flipping and that he is going to work with Robert Mueller, and I think his fan base will be Democrats and progressives.
Or the Southern District of New York. And I don't know if you've watched Billions, but the great show on Showtime, and Paul Giamatti just got fired from his character from being the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District. So every time I hear the Southern District of New York, I think of Billions. But anyway.
I'll have to check it out.
You know something? If you're looking to get away, you can probably stream the first 3 seasons. You'll love it.
All right.
As if you don't have enough to do.
I don't have enough to do. No, I do need to sometimes just chill, right? And just stream some shows.
Exactly. Rachel, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Rachel Sutherland joining us here. Liberal Steve will start off the caller parade this hour at KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you for your patience. You're always such a gentleman, sir, at KIDO Talk Radio.
The blue wave is coming up out of the dust. The conservatives are running for the hills. What you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening, Miller. So the GDP isn't up, unemployment is down. None of that's true if you listen to the president, because what you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening. Oh my God. I can't wait till September when Mueller lays everything on the table and we have the president definitely nailed for collusion, and all his buddies and his son and everybody else, and the Stormy Daniels is laid on the table in full force. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I feel better now. Bye, Miller. Have a great day.
Max in Garden City joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning.
Good morning. Before I get to my point, how does one respond to the weirdness that just poured out of liberal Steve's mouth?
It's a very good question.
Or do you just digest it, pass it, and flush the toilet?
Wow.
I swear to you. I don't know, he's either off his meds or he's on his meds. Anyway, let's go over to this prison issue, can we please?
Yes, sir.
In my medical service in China, of course, I was on the rotational team, so we move in and out of the prisons to handle them urgent care and what I call periodic maintenance. And Chinese prisons are run so differently than here, but we could learn a few things from them. The inmates are very well fed, and the medical care is not that bad. But discipline is harsh. It's a militaristic environment. The problem with corrections officers is taken care of by rotating the entire staff every 6 weeks. Everybody rotates. If you're a CO, you're either in the military on assignment or you're a member of the corrections corps, and you rotate. Inmates can't get to know you quickly enough, long enough to do the drug thing. And, of course, there are things you can't do in America. A prison guard not long ago was found smuggling marijuana into some inmates, and he was executed without trial. Now, of course, we can't do that. But the things we can learn from, the Chinese prisons have a militaristic system. If you behave yourself as an inmate, you get a stripe on your shirt. People march group to group. You're given authority over other inmates and teams. It's managed carefully by the camp psychologist, by the camp director, and, of course, by the commander, who rotates with his staff every 6 weeks. You can be sent to a training camp. You can be sent to a work farm, or you can be locked up in the big brick, the penitentiary. They're not asking each other about tablets or worrying about getting raped in the showers. They're not afraid of this. You want a gang in a Chinese prison? Forming one would get about as far as saying, let's have a gang. That's about where it would end. We need to enforce constitutional but strict and consistent discipline. We need a staff that rotates to end familiarity, which is where so many prison issues begin, is too much familiarity between the correction guards and the inmates. And medically, from what I saw, they get pretty decent care. Actually, they get better care than a lot of the rural Chinese do. And when I would treat, sometimes they bring a guy in and say, this one's dangerous, this one chopped up 7 people, be careful. They never did anything but hold still, answer questions, and let me stick them with a needle. They were always very well behaved because they knew the consequences. If you attack a doctor, yeah, you're going to get a beat down. You're going to have these guys as rifle butts wailing India for a while until the doctor don't leave. You'll need to take care of him again. We need something. What we have isn't working. Private companies are certainly not the answer. And a full-time, think about it. Who makes a career out of locking people up? You don't need this guy to say, I spent 30 years at the ABC Correctional Facility. No, wrong. Our system needs repair. We can look at Singapore, China, some of these other countries, and we can take the better elements. Because when you've got a disciplined and motivated population, you don't have the problems that we have in our country where they're hanging out in doorways looking for somebody to rob.
All right, Max, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Randall in Mountain Home on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Randall.
Good morning, Kevin.
Thanks for your patience.
I just wanted to, I wanted to first say that Max made a couple good points. I don't foresee in any near future that any major changes like in our correctional systems would be changed to systems like China or Singapore, but I do believe that a more disciplined population could be beneficial. But I just wanted to give another perspective on the inmate population, and that is, most people can out there can appreciate, the dynamics that happen at, say, family coming to visit for the holidays. After so many days, people in a small room, small environment, small house, sometimes start to bicker with one another. They don't, and that's family. When you have one prison population that's 1,400 inmates and they aren't family and they don't like each other, it's a little hard to manage when it's not just a weekend they're living in close quarters to each other, but years on end they're living in close quarters to one another. And, obviously hostilities happen. They don't get along. Their personalities are different. And usually that leads to arguments, fights, many different things. And all those things have to be managed. It's part of the state's responsibility to protect the public from the criminals that were arrested and are serving time. And it is also the state's responsibility to protect the inmate from other inmates. So the tablets help manage that situation where it gives, once again, if they're just sitting around and have nothing but time and all they have to think about is, what's bothering them about the other guy that's in his cell, if they spend time on a tablet, listen to music or playing a game on it or whatever, it's less interaction sometimes amongst each other, the other inmates, and they tend to get along a little bit better. And those situations are managed, make it a little more safer for the correctional officers.
On the other hand, if they're using their tablets for nefarious means, and again, if I'm working in a prison, I want those guys, playing Fortnite or Mario Brothers or whatever. If I'm outside the prison, I remember former Ada County Sheriff Gary Rainey and I got into this because in Ada County, you can get on Facebook and you can do all these things. And I'm going, well, where's the consequences if you're just doing time? Now, again, that's my ignorance from not being in the prison system literally.
I don't agree necessarily with the access to the social media platforms like Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. But I don't think that's something that needs to be done. But I mean, something that's more localized, something that's more isolated, where it's just a game on a device that you can play and you're not interacting with other people. Fortnite would be something where you're interacting with someone outside the prison system. Typically, those interactions are limited and monitored. So the email system, like the one caller had said before, those emails are looked at, and just like before modern technology, inmates were always able to send letters home to family and get letters back. And a lot of times those letters are opened and looked at to see if there's something coming in that package. What is the conversation about? Is there some sort of gang-related activities from inside the prison to outside the prison, communications thereof? All those things are investigated through the regular mail. Now it's modern technology. That mail system is now email, and so they still do the same thing where they look at those emails and investigate. So that those correspondences from inside to outside the prison are monitored and should be, and I think should be limited to just family or whatever with the inmates, so that there's not just routine conversations between people inside the prison and people outside through games or social media. I don't think that should be happening. But I just wanted to let people out there know that there's a dynamic that, you have all these people in a small space, that sometimes things don't always go as planned, and those things have to be managed, and that's a hard job for the correctional officers to do.
That's why we need to support them as much as we can. Randall, thank you for the call. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Howdy-ho. Just as a warning, it's going to be hot Tuesday, the hottest day of the year. If you're out rolling, please be very careful. Coming up, we'll talk Dave Petzo and fires first. 6:57, traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work.
I'm News Channel 7's Eric Gebhardt.
And Kevin Miller in the morning. Don't forget, coming up this week, we'll be in Caldwell. Looking forward to celebrating some food, some wine, and getting out into Caldwell. By the way, had a great weekend at the Indian Creek Steakhouse. If you're looking for a place to go to have a good time, a real Western Idaho vibe, check them out in Caldwell today. We're just getting started. Blessed to be a part of your day. Thank you for choosing us each and every morning. We so appreciate you. Please tell a friend. We'd like to be here for a while, right? Rolling along, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Fox News now.